Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Halfling. A small whimper disturbed the sleeping elf as she looked up to see a dragonling with midnight blue scales looking at her from over the edge of the nest. His eyes were narrow in a worried expression. She smiled softly at him. "Can't sleep, Sim?" The dragonling whimpered, looking away in shame. But Rayla just smiled and reached out, picking him up and lifting him into the mess of pillows and blankets. "It's all right. You can sleep with us." He purred and yapped quietly, curling up in the space by her head. The moon shadow sighed as she stroked his fur gently. "I wish I could speak dragon," she mumbled to herself. "He said he's sorry he woke you," a sleepy voice explained from over her shoulder as the arms that had been around her middle pulled away and reached out to the small dragon. As the second hand stroked his fur, Zim opened his eyes and whimpering before leaning up and licking the fingertips gently. Callum chuckled. "No need to apologize, Zim. Now come on. Now come here and snuggle up." Zim jumped up onto Rayla's shoulder, then down into the gap between them. The elf rolled over so she was facing them both and looked at Callum's smiling face as his half-brother settled between them. "You're in dragon form again, Zim?" Zim barked and yapped for a while, talking in the draconic language. He couldn't speak in this form yet, and wouldn't until he was at least 3 years old. Callum sighed as he finished. "I know you feel safer like this, but you can't keep hiding from your problems. Running and flying away won't help. Believe me, I tried." More barks and yips, causing his brother to frown. "What do you mean, bullies?" Rayla perked up. "Bullies? Zim, is someone picking on you?" Lying down between them, he lowered his eyes and wrapped his tail around himself. The little dragon nodded. Callum growled. Who dares pick on my little brother?" He barked softly, covering his face with his tail. Rayla looked at her fiancé for a translation. "What did he say?" "He says he won't tell." His brother sighed, his growling dying down. "Zim, please tell me what's going on. You're my brother. I don't want to see you upset," he pleaded, stroking his fur soothingly. After a silent few minutes, the dragon softly yipped and hissed, explaining while keeping his face covered. The older brother stopped suddenly in his comforting moves and sighed. "Oh, Zim," he whispered. Then his gaze rose to the elf. "He says they keep calling him a halfling." He sighed and went back to petting his brother's fur. "Come on, Zim. You know being half sky and half moon is nothing to be ashamed of. He yapped once. Is not. Another yap. Is not. Yap. Is not. And stop thinking it is. He huffed, tapping his wing and sending a painful little bit of shock down it, making him yelp in pain. Pulling his tail away, Zim barked up at his brother, but Callum just shrugged. Serves you right for talking such nonsense. The dragonling snapped and barked, wings spread wide, and showing off the beautiful, sparkling effect underneath. Rayla couldn't stop herself from smiling as the little dragon tried to headbutt his brother in the chest, with little effect but to give himself a headache. Before he could have another go, Rayla picked him up and snuggled him tight, rubbing her cheek against his. Zim, stop trying to hurt my fiancé, she told him while holding him still. As for these bullies, if they don't like you for being half-moon, that's their problem. You can't help who your parents are. He smiled at her, leaning up and licking her chin gently. Fighting back a possessive growl, Callum reached up and tickled his brother behind the horns. Zim, those bullies only think you're half as powerful, but they're wrong. He leaned over and nuzzled him and Rayla at the same time. You will be twice as powerful. You won't be able to do you won't just be able to do sky magic, but moon magic as well. We already know you can access both primals. Gave us all a right shock when you vanished on your first full moon, Rayla reminded him with a chuckle. Luckily, I was around to spot you. And you have the sky, too, since you can call upon lightning, the other explained. You will grow into an amazing dragon, Zim, and you will prove all of them wrong. Give it a few years, and all those bullies will be coming to you for help. But in the meantime, if they pick on you, just bite him in the ankle, Rayla teased, ignoring the disapproving look her lover gave her. Everything will be all right, she yawned. In the end. Nodding, Zim yawned too and curled up between the pair. Callum reached out and, placing one arm around each with his wing covering and protecting them both. What is the meaning of this? The Crown Prince bellowed as he looked over the scene before him. He ran quickly, having heard a scream and someone falling. What he saw was a guard lying on the ground with a terrified expression, while a young dragonling held tightly onto his ankle, dark red blood flowing from the wound. Once seeing his brother, the dragon let go and ran over, yapping and barking. Listening to him, the prince growled, charging at the elf, grabbing him by the neck and pinning him to the wall. So you're the one that's been upsetting my brother? He hissed in his face. You dare insult a member of the royal family? The elf just looked terrified of the prince, mouth agape as if to speak, but the grip on his neck and fear kept him silent. After a moment, Callum threw him to the side, where he stumbled and fell back down to the floor. The prince stood tall as he stared down at his brother's bully. I will give you two choices. Stay in the palace as Prince Amandius's personal guard and get used to serving a halfling, as you call him, or leave and never return. The guard stared up at him, amazed by his mercy, and knelt on one knee. Thank you, Your Highness, for your kindness. So you choose to stay? Yes, Your Highness. Very well. Go get your legs seen to, and then come find me in Asmodeus, he ordered, then waved his hand to dismiss him. As he limped off, Callum turned to his brother, who was licking his arm to get rid of the taste in his mouth. Don't go thinking you're off the hook either, Zim, he scolded his brother, who looked shyly up at him. I know Rayla said you should bite him, but you know she was joking. You can't go around biting people, even bullies. Zim yipped softly, looking down at his claws. I don't care if you decide to stand up for yourself. You don't bite people, his brother huffed. If I went biting everyone that annoyed me, I wouldn't have any subjects left. The little dragon barked with a grin. Callum blushed. That's totally different, and don't bring Rayla into this, he sighed, then knelt down across from his brother. Zim, I'm glad we have dealt with your bully, but please, promise me you won't go biting anymore. His brother looked up at him, then closed his eyes, shifting into his hybrid form. The pair both had chestnut brown hair, but Zim had a slight streak of gray on the right side. His horns were much darker than Callum's and had light blue markings swirled around them. His skin was slightly darker, and the scales around his eyes were midnight blue against Callum's pale ones. He looked to be about 5 years old, despite being only 2, since he wouldn't start growing until he was 4 from dragon's slow maturity. He smiled slightly at his brother and nodded. I promise, no more biting. Good. Now give me a hug. He smirked, scooping him up for a tight embrace. As they did, the little boy nuzzled his brother affectionately. Thanks, Cal. You're the best big brother ever. Smiling, Cal leant down and winked at him. Just don't tell Mother about this. Okay, he giggled as they walked down the hallway.